there is an old house on the edge of town, long abandoned and thick with silence, where shadows stretch longer than they should. Inside, a single wooden chest rests in a forgotten corner, its secrets locked away for decades. This is where Hal's story begins on, where it should have ended. Hal had always known about the coat. It haunted the edges of his childhood memories. Whispers at the dinner table, the sound of his father pacing late into the night, and that one warning that froze in his mind like a frostbitten photograph. "Stay away from the coat," his father had said, his voice trembling in a way that made Hal's small hands clench tight with fear. Years later, when Hal inherited the house, he told himself he wouldn't open the chest. But the past has a way of calling, and curiosity is louder than fear. The house groaned as Hal walked inside, the door's hinges crying out after years of neglect. Dust hung thick in the air, and the faint smell of mildew clung to the walls. As Hal's footsteps echoed through the empty halls, he felt the memories pressing against him, his father's warnings, the late-night arguments, the silence that followed. When his eyes fell upon the chest, it was almost as though it was waiting for him. The air grew heavier, colder, his breath clouded as he knelt down and pried open the lid. Inside lay the coat, folded neatly, its fabric smooth and dark as the night. Hal hesitated, his fingers hovering above it. The room seemed to hold its breath, and then he touched it. It wasn't just cold, it was alive. The sensation shot up his arm, and for a brief second, the room around him flickered, like a light bulb on its last gasp. He dropped the coat back into the chest and stumbled backward. He should have left it there. He didn't. The coat came home with him. Hal told himself it was just an object, just fabric, but he could feel its presence. It hung in his closet, quiet and still, yet somehow always watching. At night, his dreams were filled with terrible things. Faces of strangers twisted in agony, rooms bathed in crimson light, a whispering voice he couldn't understand, but somehow knew meant him harm. The first death came 3 days later. Jenny, his closest friend, had stopped by his apartment. She wasn't supposed to touch it, wasn't supposed to even see it, but she did. How didn't he know how it had happened, how the coat had moved from his closet to his couch, but there it was, draped over the cushions like it had always belonged there. By morning, Jenny was dead. No marks, no signs of struggle, just gone. The deaths followed Hal like shadows, a neighbor, anyone who lingered too long in its presence. The coat demanded something from Hal, though he didn't know what. He only knew it wouldn't stop until it had taken everyone close to him. Desperate, Hal began digging through his father's journals, finding scraps of a story he wished he'd never known. The coat wasn't just cursed, it was alive. A vessel for something ancient and hungry. His father had tried to destroy it once, decades ago, but failed. The ritual required courage his father didn't have. And now that burden fell to Hal. Hal returned to the old house late one night, the coat wrapped in a thick blanket. The house felt darker than before, as though it had been waiting to. The walls groaned like a living thing, and the air was thick with rot. He set the coat down on the chest and opened his father's journal, chanting the words he'd copied out so carefully. The coat began to move. At first, it was subtler shiver, like a breeze.